Ester Asin joins us, Director of the WWF's European Policy Office. Esther, thank you very much for being with us. Just spell it out for us. How has this happened? How have we come to this?
Yeah, I think it would be long to explain. It has happened because we've basically developed, polluted, and overconsumed our resources over the last 40 years. If you compare it back in the 60s, the European Overshoot Day took place in October, and we've been accelerating over the years. There was a small contraction in the late 2000s due to the financial crisis, not due to the shift to more sustainable policies. And this is where we are today, as you rightly said. We would need not two planets, we would need nearly three planets, 2.8 planets, if everyone on Earth lived as an average EU resident.
So, in terms of the urgency, Esther, tell us more about this. How quickly do solutions need to be found?
The urgency is there and is being reminded to us by scientists on the climate side, but also this week on the nature biodiversity side. So, and what we know is that we still have a window to act in the coming 10, 12 years. But if we don't act now, the window will be closing more and more. And there are solutions. I mean, the report is not only about making people feel guilty or scared. We know that we can shift to more sustainable diets, that we can produce foods much different, that we can reach much ambitious climate objectives, that we can also protect better, much better nature as well.
So we all have a responsibility, and of course, so does industry, and so do governments. But I mean, in terms of individuals, because individuals are watching this program, they're probably looking for ideas. You know what? I use a reusable coffee cup. I recycle stuff at home. I try to buy fresh food rather than sort of things that are processed. I try to take the train instead of using the car. Those kind of things. Is this going to make enough difference?
It's making a difference. I would say really well done, because every gesture together is having an impact on the resources that we are using. Even, for instance, not buying a car. If you buy a car and you don't drive it, you will be using resources. But just not buying a car is having an impact on less resource to be used to produce a car. And as you said, shifting to other ways of mobility, thinking twice before we consume, thinking twice how we go on holidays as well, buying food that is locally produced and grown, not buying commodities that are fueling the depletion of nature in countries like Brazil and others. That is also making a difference. But as you said, we also need the right public policies in place. We need the private sector to play its part of the role, but we also need the finances, the public and the private finances, to support this transition to a more sustainable economies and a more sustainable world.
I really agree with everything you're saying, and it's hard for me to sort of like disagree with in this interview, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. People don't like effectively going backwards to a time when they didn't have convenience things. People don't like going back to a time when they couldn't just jump in the car and do what they want. I think I read recently that computers, which everybody has, computers are in all houses and sometimes in multiple numbers. They give off gases that are causing problems, those kind of things. So how do we arrest this? How do we get back and wind this back in and somehow change what we do? Or is it about innovation? Is it about more, I don't know, smarter computers being developed, which don't give off the kind of noxious gases that we're talking about?
As you said, there's indeed a way about the products that we are using are produced in a much more sustainable way, and this is the whole principle of the circular economy. And the EU has been trying to do some progress in advancing some policies and legislation about that. That's possible, but I think if we don't really change, and again, change can take place step by step, I think the results are going to be much dear. Maybe not for you or for me, but maybe for our grandchildren. And I can tell you, live on a planet with a global temperature rise that is going to go maybe beyond 2 degrees or 3 degrees. I can tell you it's going to be very, very tough.
Esther, thank you very much for joining us from the WWF, the European Policy Director there. Thank you for joining us and
Thank you.
sharing that insight in what is really disturbing news, that we're using up resources even faster than we could even hope to replace them here in the EU. Change has to come for the good of the planet.